Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is Diana Sumbwe. The headlines. The Energy Regulation Board ERB has announced a fuel pump price reduction. The annual rate of inflation for February 2019 marginally declined to 7.8% from 7.9% recorded in January. And National Guidance and Religious Affairs Minister Godfrida Sumaili says government has no intentions to regulate the church. And now the news in detail. The Energy Regulation Board ERB has reduced fuel pump prices by 86 ngwe for petrol and 1 kwacha 22 ngwe for diesel effective midnight Thursday 28 February 2019. The new prices are 15 kwacha 20 ngwe for petrol from 16 kwacha 6 ngwe, 13 kwacha 43 ngwe for diesel from 14 kwacha 65 ngwe, and 15 kwacha 72 ngwe for low sulfur gas from 16 kwacha 94 ngwe, while the price of a litre of kerosene has remained unchanged at 11 kwacha 34 ngwe. Announcing the development during a media briefing, ERB Board Chairman Raymond Mpundu said the price reduction has been influenced by movements in international oil prices, as well as the exchange rate of the kwacha and the United States dollars and recent amendments to the Customs and Excise Act. He has explained that after the price adjustment in October 2018, international oil prices significantly dropped from an average of $82 in October to $59.50 in December per barrel, and that during the same period the kwacha steadily depreciated and stabilized to a monthly average rate of 12 kwacha in the fourth quarter of 2018. Mr. Mpundu has since reminded retailers of petroleum products that failure to effect the changes will attract regulation sanctions. He says ERB inspectors will begin monitoring service stations to ensure that the new prices are implemented in a timely manner.
It is also noted that the Customs and Excise Amendment Act number 19 of 2018, which was enacted on 26th December 2018 by Parliament, has now been effected. Consequently, excise duty on petrol and diesel was increased to 2 kwacha 7 ngwe per litre from 1 kwacha 97 per litre and 66 ngwe per litre from 62 ngwe per litre respectively. In light of the foregoing, the pump prices have been revised downwards for petroleum products, as I'm going to indicate now. For petrol, the current price is at 16 kwacha 6 ngwe per litre. The new price will be 15 kwacha 20 ngwe, giving a reduction of 86 ngwe per litre. Diesel, the current price is 14 kwacha 65 ngwe. The new price will be 13 kwacha 43 ngwe, giving a reduction of 1 kwacha 22 ngwe. Kerosene, the price remains the same at 11 kwacha 34 ngwe. For LSG, low sulfur gas, the current price is 16 kwacha 94 ngwe, but it will decline to 15 kwacha 72 ngwe. So the decline will be by 1 kwacha 22 ngwe.
Transport and Communications Minister Brian Mushimba, whose decision to post a photo of himself with South African nurses following his discharge from hospital has sparked a social media uproar and says no public funds were used to treat his broken hand. The minister was involved in an accident last month and was admitted to the University Teaching Hospital UTH before he evacuated to South Africa for specialist treatment. Responding to his critics on social media using his Twitter account, Mr. Mushimba says he went to South Africa for treatment accompanied by his wife alone to keep the costs low. He says every bill that was handed to him and his wife while in South Africa was paid out of their personal funds and that they have receipts to prove this. Mr. Mushimba explains that after the accident, UTH did their best to stabilize him, having lost a lot of blood after his hand was crushed and damaged beyond redemption, with bones, nerves, ligament and soft tissues damaged. He says it was suggested by doctors at UTH that the hand be amputated before a second opinion was given for him to be evacuated to South Africa. He states that his experience has enabled him to see the need to accelerate access to specialized treatment in the country, saying no Zambian should lose their arm if it can be saved. Mr. Mushimba says has since offered himself as an additional voice on the need to accelerate access to specialized treatment for all Zambians. The minister, who also blocked some of his critics on Twitter, who criticized him for posting the photo of his discharge with South African nurses, has unreservedly apologized and promised to unblock those he blocked as a way of opening a new page on friendship and online transactions. He says after much reflection, he has realized his part in the storm surrounding his being discharged from hospital. Zambia's annual rate of inflation has marginally declined to 7.8% in February from 7.9% recorded in January 2019. This means that on average, prices of goods and services only increased by 7.8% between February 2018 and February 2019. Central Statistical Office CSO Acting Director of Census and Statistics, Ivan Sekanyati, says the 7.8% inflation rate, food and non-alcoholic beverages accounted for 4.1 percentage points. Mr. Sekanyati says non-food items accounted for 3.7 percentage points. He has disclosed that during the CSO monthly bulletin briefing in Lusaka that of the 3.7 percentage points, transport contributed 1.2 percentage points, while housing, water, electricity and fuels accounted for 0.9 percentage points. Mr. Sekanyati has further told journalists that Zambia recorded a trade surplus of 938 million kwacha in January 2019 from a trade deficit of 543.9 million kwacha recorded in December 2018. He explained that this trade surplus means that the country exported more but at a reduced rate than it imported in nominal terms.
In February, we experienced a positive growth in amount of export compared to imports. The comparison of traditional and non-traditional exports for December and January shows that our exports are still dominated by traditional exports. In December, we had 74.4% of exports comparing with non-traditional exports, while non-traditional exports accounted for 25.6%. You should note that between November and December, we continuously recorded a trade deficit of 1,655,000 in November, although it declined slightly to 543 in December.
And Mr. Sekanyati has disclosed that a total of 3,052,529 persons in Zambia's labor force as of the fourth quarter of 2019. He states that the country, however, recorded a 12.5% unemployment rate in the same quarter.
Now, out of the total labor force of 3 million, a total of 2.669, 528 were reported to be employed. That is by strict definition of being employed, working for pay or profit. And if you get that definition, you find that the number of the unemployed persons was 383,000 from the labor force of 3 million. That is in the strictest sense of employment, as guided by the international guidelines. In terms of the rural area, the major component of the labor force was in urban areas at 2 million, while the rural areas had 988,600. So we have the huge group of people who are actively seeking work and are available to take up employment, but they are not employed.
National Guidance and Religious Affairs Minister Godfrida Sumaili has clarified that government has no intentions to regulate churches. Speaking when the Association for Christian Universities and Colleges paid a courtesy call on her, Reverend Sumaili says that government wants the church to regulate its own activities and that her ministry will only play an oversight role. Reverend Sumaili says her ministry will also play a role of bringing umbrella church mother bodies together, who she says have already made submissions. Meanwhile, Reverend Sumaili says government wants to see the clergy in the country meet minimal standards required for someone to be called a clergy.
We are talking about self-regulation. The church itself regulating its activities, having systems in place to be able to ensure that there is credibility in the services that they are providing. So our role as government is to bring the umbrella church mother bodies together. And we have done that, and they've made submissions. They know exactly what this minimum standard should be, and the consultations are still ongoing. When we are done with the self-regulatory framework, we shall go back to the churches and even to the association, so that they can look at it and say that, okay, this is what we need. Or it's a self-regulatory system that we are coming up with. And let me say this, that we have our total trust as government that the church is mature enough to regulate themselves.
Meanwhile, Association Chairperson Lazarus Piri says apart from uniting Christian universities and colleges, the association will hold each other accountable on the programs they offer in the education of clergymen. Dr. Piri says the association will also ensure that there is integrity among men of the collar. The Patents and Companies Registration Agency, PACRA, has deregistered 24,713 companies of the 25,000 that were earmarked for deregistration in 2018 due to non-compliance, and 27,591 businesses were registered by the agency in 2018 compared to 26,745 registered in 2017. PACRA Public Relations Officer Vida Njovu says that the bulk of the registrations are in wholesale and retail trade, financial and insurance, as well as construction sectors. Mrs. Njovu says the agency also recorded an increase in the number of business registrations by female entrepreneurs in 2018, with a total of 5,265 compared to 2017, which had recorded 5,036 registrations. She has told Q News that PACRA recorded an increase in the filing of annual returns at 61,144 compared to only 52,060 received in 2017. Mrs. Njovu further states that in the area of intellectual property rights, the agency recorded an increase in lodgements in 2018, specifically in patents and industrial designs, with statistics of 24 and 39 respectively, as compared to 2017, which had 20 and 28. State House Clinic in Lusaka will from Thursday 28 February 2019 start operating for 24 hours from the initial 8 hours. This follows demands by the people in the area for the clinic, which caters for an average 100 patients per day, with a total catchment population of slightly over 13,000 people. Speaking after a joint tour of the clinic with his finance counterpart Margaret Wanakatwe, Minister of Health Chitalu Chirufya says the declaration of State House as a 24-hour square operating clinic follows the realization that the catchment area deserves better healthcare services. Dr. Chirufya has since directed the Provincial Health Office to ensure that they deploy another doctor and more nurses to the clinic so as to enhance operations to the health facility. The Health Minister has also disclosed that the Ministry of Health will expand the clinic to include a maternity annex wing, which will have a delivery suite, antenatal and postnatal wards. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has donated an ambulance to State House Clinic, which will be used for operations of emergency cases.
It shows that you are very concerned about the health of the people in your constituency. Your call is appropriate, and the catchment population here deserves better services. For starters, we're going to expand the infrastructure and put up a maternity annex, and we're going to start this year. And immediately we are going to deploy a doctor who will be permanently based here. So there will be 2 doctors who will be permanently based here. They'll be rotating. And we're also going to declare today that this clinic will run 24 hours. Wow. The Provincial Health Director will work with the District Director of Health to ensure that we have more nurses shifted and the 2 doctors shifted, so that we can operate this as a closed clinic. Lastly, Honourable Minister, I'm happy to deliver to you today a brand new ambulance. It's a basic life support ambulance, and it's just on its way. We're handing it over to you just now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this ambulance will be for State House Clinic, and it will be placed here, and so it will be available to do any emergency referrals.
Fantastic.
For the people.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And in receiving the donation of the ambulance, the Saka Central Member of Parliament Margaret Manakatwe thanked Dr. Chilufya for the gesture. Mrs. Manakatwe says it has been the cry of the clinic to have an ambulance and a maternity wing at the clinic. She has also commended members of staff at the health facility for their professionalism, as well as keeping it in a hygienic condition at all times.
And the cry, I'm so glad that you responded so quickly, Minister, because it is really us wanting to extend this to 24 hours. Because what happens here when it's closed, they have to go to Chilenje, which sometimes for a pregnant woman, it's very, very scary to go that far. Secondly, is the cry for an ambulance. When there's an emergency here, there is no ambulance. Thirdly, is the cry for a maternity ward. There isn't one here. It's a tight clinic, but it's a neat clinic. I'm very enthused and encouraged by the nurses that work here, by the sister in charge, and how they've taken their work to heart. And they're very, very committed. And this is why today I'm happy to be here to just ask you to be able to supply these 3 very simple, very basic requests on behalf of the State Lodge community. Thank you very much, Minister.
The Swedish government has signed a 64 million kwacha financial agreement with the National Legal Aid Clinic for Women, aimed at enhancing the equal access to legal rights for women and children in the country. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Swedish Embassy Head of Development Cooperation Karin Sverkin says the funds will go towards the implementation of the clinic's new strategic plan to run for the period 2019 to 2023. Ms. Sverkin says the finances will help the clinic provide legal presentation, counseling, legal and human rights education to women and the community at large. She has since expressed confidence that the funds will be used for their intended purpose.
We also have a high level of financial trust in the organization. So the total value is 50 million Swedish kronor, which is approximately 64 million kwacha. So it will cover a major part of the funding needs for the clinic's strategic plan, and it's covering the period 2019 to 2023. And as you heard already, the program is designed to empower women and children by facilitating the fair and equal access to legal rights. And this will be achieved by the clinic's work to provide legal representation, counseling, and legal and human rights education. And as you also heard, the embassy and the clinic have been partners now for quite some years. And we provided support also under the previous strategic plan. And this was for the period 2013 to 2018. And there were many commendable results achieved. We saw that the clinic provided a full range of services to clients, including the legal advice, mediation, and psychosocial counseling. And the clinic's track record is in legal representation has been particularly impressive.
And in a speech read on his behalf by LAS Council member Matilda Kaoma, LAS President Eddie Mwitwa disclosed that in the previous strategic plan of 2013 to 2018, the clinic recorded a total of 6,523 new cases of women and children against the target of 1,440 cases. Mr. Muitwa states that the improved performance of the Legal Aid Clinic, which has seen it attend to increased cases of women and children, is as a result of the support by the Swedish government and other cooperating partners.
The clinic has been effective and continued to record an increase in the number of cases reported throughout its offices. For instance, under the previous strategic plan 2013 to 2017, the clinic recorded a total of 6,523 new cases of women and children against a target of 1,440 cases. Under the recently ended strategic plan, the clinic also recorded an increase in its funding partners, albeit challenges that all of them, with the exception of CEDA, provide earmarked financial support. Madam Guest of Honor, LAS is extremely grateful to see CEDA increasing its support to the clinic under the new strategic plan, which has a total budget of 79,061,811 kwacha. We are grateful that CEDA has seen the contribution to the clinic makes in promoting.
And convener for the Women's Rights Committee disclosed that the Legal Aid Clinic has a total budget of over 79 million kwacha for the implementation of the 5-year strategic plan, and therefore the support from the Swedish government is significant. And Mrs. Rosemary Bwalia, a beneficiary of the Women's Legal Clinic, had this to say in a vote of thanks.
I want to say thank you very much to the Swedish Embassy for this a grant that you have given to the Legal Aid Clinic. You don't know how excited we are. Already from what I've gotten from here, Legal Aid Clinic is having 80% winning of cases. Where is this coming from? It's because of the support that they are getting through the Swedish Embassy. And also that they are paralegals who are being trained. Thank you very much, Swedish Embassy. What we have witnessed today is going to go a long way in upgrading the rights of a woman and the children. The rights of a woman are as good as giving education. In the same manner that we always emphasize educate a woman, let the women also have their rights. Because it's out of their rights being accorded that it can, progress the development.
Botswana High Commissioner to Zambia Lewanamang Mokalake has recognized the need for African countries to ensure that various projects are successfully implemented if they are to attain sustainable development of their economies. Speaking during the launch of the INOLED Consulting Zambia, whose focus is to develop expertise in the field of project management and best practices, Mr. Mokolake has called for support towards the noble cause of increasing project management maturity on the African continent, which INOLED is doing. He says he is confident that the presence of INOLED in Zambia will help organizations successfully implement projects.
With a view to help organizations succeed in the primary areas of strategy, project management, performance management. This model is one that will benefit Zambia organizations and their projects. The presence of INOLED Consulting in Zambia will mean that your professionals are developed into project management experts trained to employ best practices and methodologies to successful project implementation on budget and on time. Distinguished guests, it is therefore my great pleasure to be part of the official launch of INOLED Consulting in Zambia. Their noble cause of increasing the project management maturity in the region and continent of Africa is one we can all rally behind. Africa deserves projects that are successfully implemented for the benefit of our economies and citizens. Honorable Minister.
Speaking at the same event, Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry Christopher Eluma says that government acknowledges and appreciates human capital development as an important component of development. Mr. Eluma says foreign direct investment creates employment for citizens, which will further facilitate skills transfer and development. He states that with trained professionals in project management, there will be improvement in the capacity to deliver on public or private sector projects on time and with minimal waste.
As a government, we acknowledge and appreciate the importance of this investment in the service sector, as human capital development is an important component of our development agenda. Further, you will agree with me that foreign direct investments creates employment for our citizens, which facilitates skills transfer and development. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, InnoLead Consulting, once established, plans to do a lot of skills transfer to the Zambians through a training academy and coaching of local project management consultants, spearheaded by highly experienced consultants. There's no doubt.
And InnoLead Consulting Group Managing Director Obona Gwegonyane says the decision to start operations in Zambia came through the recognized fact that Botswana is not the only African country that could benefit from best practice project management.
In other words, for those that say, I have experience, I used to work at that department, I know how it's done, or engineers are very notorious for saying, I've always done it for 30 years like this. Look at the building. It doesn't look at the wastage in funds, the wastage in a product that's not being utilized and so on. So there is no question about the value of project management globally. The minister in the Office of Cabinet in the UK, and UK has established what they call the Infrastructure Project Authority. It's a central authority that sits in the Cabinet Office, reporting to the Prime Minister on the governing and
Chienge constituency member of parliament Given Katuta is impressed with the progress made so far in the over 12 million kwacha electrification program of Lambwe Chomba ward in other surrounding areas by the Rural Electrification Authority REA in her constituency. Speaking when she visited the area, Ms. Katuta is optimistic that the area will be connected to the national grid before the end of the year. She has wondered what the delay is about in concluding with the project when much of the work, such as erecting of the electricity poles, has been done. Ms. Katuta says Lambwe Chomba area in Chienge district of Lapula province has a lot of potential to contribute to economic development through commercial agriculture activities. She says the area also has potential for mining activities as it is rich in limestone, which can even be exported to neighboring countries like Tanzania. Mrs. Katuta is therefore hopeful that the area will soon be connected to the national grid for enhanced activities of commercial agriculture and limestone mining, which will not only contribute to economic development but also help in job creation for the youth.
2016, I started talking to the government and REA. So they asked me to write a letter. I wrote a letter, and after that I was told it was scoped. After being scoped, I was told it would cost about 12.5 million kwacha to have it connected from Kaputa, because Kaputa is nearby Lambwe Chomba. It's only 15 kilometers. So since then, I was not last year, in 2017, I was told it had been scoped and the works were underway. As you can see, they've put up, they've erected the poles there. That's where the transformer is going to be. But I'm yet to find out what is now seems to be delaying the whole process. But I'm hopeful that at the end of this year, Lambwe Chomba will be connected to the national grid. Because once we have power connected to Lambwe Chomba has got a lot of potential in terms of commercial farming, rice, groundnuts, soybeans and beans, then also sugar cane. It has also the potential to go into commercial mining line. Lambwe Chomba lies on top of a limestone, and also it has minerals. So limestone, I think, can easily be explored, and then they can come in a good investor. We can have cement being manufactured from here, and since if you look over there, it's the DR.
Chongwe Member of Parliament Jaffin Mwakalombe says he has now aligned his developmental agenda for his constituency to the 2019 national budget. Mr. Mwakalombe says just like this year's national budget has focused on not leaving any Zambian, all youth empowerment programs in the constituency are now all inclusive. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Mwakalombe has cited the Japhet Mwakalombe Trust, which is now considering school dropouts for programs that had excluded them in the past. Mr. Mwakalombe, who is also Province Minister, has disclosed that the process of identifying dropouts from all grades in the 19 wards of the constituency has since begun. He says his trust is working in collaboration with head teachers in schools and the Office of the District Education Board Secretary, DEBS.
I have youths in all the 19 wards. These youths are being trained so that they can be able to go and collect that data of the people that have failed. And we are not only working as Japhet Mwakalombe Trust alone, we are working, engaging with the DEBS office, working with the head teachers and the teachers in Chongo, so that we can be able to come up with the right information, because I believe that as a member of parliament, I cannot deliver development without having the data, and that is where the starting point. And also in that we are looking at what was the reason of this young man dropping out from school.
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. The Energy Regulation Board ERB has announced a fuel pump price reduction. The annual rate of inflation for February 2019 marginally declined to 7.8% from 7.9% recorded in January. And National Guidance and Religious Affairs Minister Godfrida Sumaili says government has no intentions to regulate the church. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.